The NFL draft has come and go, but it will still be the talk of the next several weeks and several months to come, as it was electrifying. It shattered records, and well, it is worth talking about. It is news, sports news TV as we speak. The NHL playoffs and the NBA playoffs is now said bye to the first team, and there's going to be plenty to talk about there. And I'm really looking forward to that because there are several top teams in the NBA right now, as well as the NHL, but plenty to talk about there. I am your host, Matthew Raridan. I am live from the hospital, and this is Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. And I just first want to say thank you to both of my co-hosts here today for holding the fort down for me while in my absence, really appreciative of these two guys, and they've been great for this show. And I can't say much more as far as how thankful I am for them. But there's a lot to talk about here today because, as I said, the NFL draft, even though it has came and it is gone, it still needs to be talked about more, and especially in more depth. But before we get into that, I want to introduce both of my co-hosts here today. And first, I've got David Street.
What's up, everybody? And the cap is back, for now at least.
The cap is back. No more luscious hair flow there. All right, I see how it is. And second, we've got Ed Smith.
Hook 'em, y'all.
And yes, hook 'em, y'all, indeed. I'm saying that because, the draft did come and go, and Texas did shine. They shined indeed. We will talk a little bit more about that. I want to talk about some of the biggest takeaways. I know there's obvious ones that have been talked about, especially on our last show. But one of the biggest takeaways, of course, is the reach for Michael Penix Jr. to the Atlanta Falcons. That's going to be talked about for a while now. They stand their ground. They stand by their pick there. And, well, of course you're going to. You made the pick. You have to kind of stand by it. But it's going to really be talked about because, well, when the heck's he going to see the field? It could be sooner. You never know. Coming back from an Achilles injury, that's not guaranteed. That is not guaranteed whatsoever. So, I'm not necessarily totally surprised by it, but there was a lot of big takeaways from this draft. Were there any big takeaways, according to you guys, that really stood out to you?
I mean, not really. I mean, it really seems like the only major takeaway was what the Falcons did in taking Michael Penix. Everything else was just okay. That's what happened.
Yeah, I think a big takeaway to me, really quick, Ed, before I just pass over to you, is just how long it took for some of these defensive studs to actually really get picked. A lot of these guys fell into laps of teams like the Eagles with Terrion Arnold. I mean, you guys really, the Eagles made a point of telling you who they pretty much wanted, and they got their way just like that because everyone wanted offense. Guess what? Terrion Arnold came right into the Eagles' lap.
Yeah, and something that I found, because I did go through and watch the entire draft, is the fact that there was only maybe a couple of teams that were really high, and there were only a couple of teams that were really low. So everything being around that B mark, if you're grading it, it was chalk most of the way through. Yes, there were a couple of surprises. There were some teams that went directions that I don't think anybody expected to, but they still filled needs on their roster. So, and that's what the draft is about. You're supposed to be filling the needs that your team has, and most of the organizations were able to do that in a stable way, not a flashy way, not a terrible way, but more stable. So the fact that it was just a solid draft all the way around, I think really helped just create a, I don't know, a meh feeling. But I was excited to see the number of players from two of the most talked about schools last year getting drafted, between two schools having 24 picks. It was just an amazing thing for those two teams.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about those two teams here because over the last couple years, it seems like you've seen one school really dominate the draft, especially the first round, and that's the Georgia Bulldogs. Well, they're not the top two this year. The top two teams are Michigan Wolverines and Texas Ed Smith Texas Longhorns. So Michigan it finished the draft with 13 picks, which was the most, followed behind them with Texas with 11 picks. So it was a refreshing to not see the Georgia and Alabama almost kind of narrative that's always seems to be there. Michigan, I mean, Michigan's has always been there. They are very uh, school that is consistent with that, and so same with Texas. But 13 and 11 is very impressive. Michigan, of course, of the likes of JJ McCarthy, Roman Wilson, and then Texas with, of course, their duo receivers, and then of course you did have Sweat who did get drafted as well. So they were top heavy and back heavy. I mean, my Pittsburgh Steelers drafted Ryan Watts, in the seventh round with our sixth round with our last pick. Uh, it just shows you that they were well represented the entire draft. So I know Ed, as a Texas fan, is very happy to see that. There's nothing more that makes you feel better. Oh, maybe national championship, but to see your college players succeed and be drafted in the NFL, and the first step is the draft.
And one thing that I will say with the fact that Texas had the 11 picks and Michigan with the 13, I feel like coming out of the draft, coming out of last year, the two programs may be looking at different starts to this upcoming season. Yes, there's both still going to be in the top 25, highly rated. I feel like Texas has been growing to this almost factory of draft picks, and we are definitely going to see more of this in the upcoming years, starting with next year when we do, at this point, expect Quinn Ewers to be in the top 5 because right now he is at plus 300, I think, to be the number 1 pick of the draft by I think it was ESPN's bet. That's where I had seen that. So, but Michigan, they have almost feel like with the change at head coach going to Sharon Moore, it is more or less almost a rebuild. It feels like a rebuild, but it shouldn't be because they have continuously recruited well over the years leading up to this. They just had a lot of seniors that were there for the national championship run.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to Michigan, Ed, I mean, you are right. Michigan does recruit well, but I also feel like with the amount of players that Michigan had drafted, to me, this seems like a pretty clear sign of a reality check coming into next season because I don't think Michigan will just be able to reload in the same way that Georgia does or that that Alabama does. I think Michigan just they won the title at the absolute perfect time, as you said, Ed. A lot of seniors, so a senior-laden team. They won it at the absolute perfect time, and kudos to them for that. I think they'll still be competitive, but I think they will come crashing down to earth just a little bit. And I think the amount of people they lost in the draft is going to, help them see that.
Yeah, it's kind of just the circle of life in college football. It's who's next man up. You have to have that next man up mentality because, yes, Michigan was filled with a lot of seniors, a lot of upperclassmen who controlled that team both on the offensive side and defensive side where they've now been drafted. So it's the next man up mentality, even for their head coach. I mean,
It
going
like
from Jim Harbaugh.
it does feel kind of cliche to say this, but truly, I believe that if Michigan didn't win it this past season, they would not have won it anytime soon. Like I said, they won it at the absolute perfect time.
Yeah. Worked out pretty perfect for Jim Harbaugh.
Everything was building up to that. And speaking of Jim Harbaugh, we got to talk about the picks that he made. It was basically drafting Michigan, not by school all the way through his picks through the draft, but by the types of players that he went out and got.
This was a typical Jim Harbaugh draft, is really what it was.
People thought that Jim was going to mess it up. I don't understand why. Like, where did people get that idea from? Is he historically not known for being a good drafter or whatever?
I think just looking at the fact that they had to drop salary by cutting those 2 wide receivers right before the league start, that there was some concern that they would not be able to draft the weapons that they need at wide receiver, which they really didn't go for wide receiver. And as Jim Harbaugh said, offensive linemen are weapons.
It starts out in the trenches. It really does. And I had to be humbled by that even with my own team. I really did. And I'll talk more about that. But it was a typical Jim Harbaugh type of draft, in my opinion. It's similar to exactly how he recruited at Michigan. He brought this over to the Chargers. And yes, people lost their heads when, oh, wow, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are gone. Well, no, he kind of he cut loose some of the fat. He really trimmed things up. And if there's someone that will make good of this, it's Jim Harbaugh. I'm just being honest. It's going to be Jim Harbaugh who does this. Am I saying that the ceiling right now for the Chargers is super high? Not necessarily, or their expectations, but Jim Harbaugh is the type of guy that can cut away the bad and it'll end up being good. It really will. So they have a bright future as long as Jim Harbaugh and Herbert are there. And I think he got such a not bad rap, but people thought he was going to blow it because of the whole J.J. McCarthy trade, or trading Justin Herbert, drafting J.J. McCarthy and all that. And it was like, well, was any of this really true? According to all the rumors, no. The second these teams called up the Chargers, it was an instant no. Here's the door. Boom. So... yeah.
And there's a smoke screen every year. There's something crazy that people think, oh, well, here's something out of left field that this is going to happen, and it never does. It's just the nature of the draft.
Speaking of kind of like left field, coming out of left field, we already know about the whole Michael Penix thing, but I want to talk about some of these draft picks that were pretty sneaky, pretty good, kind of came out of left field, but once they drafted them, after you looked at it a little bit, you were like, that's a pretty damn good draft pick right there. And Ed, you got one that's pretty a sneaky good pick?
I do. And it's Will Shipley from Clemson going to the Eagles. They have finally gotten their replacement for Darren Sproles. Darren Sproles was a stalwart in Philadelphia because he could do everything for that team. Offense, special teams, out of the backfield, returning kicks, the whole gambit. And Will Shipley, I think, is going to be that Swiss Army knife player for them. And the things that I see between the two is they both had great initial burst. They're a little bit on the slight side, so they can get in and out of cuts. They had great balance, being decisive with the football where they're going. Yes, the slight frame is a negative, but he could turn it into a positive in this league because you have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, taking some of that running pressure off by the zone scheme that they run. So you're allowing Will Shipley to be that space guy. Another guy that comes to mind is Amendola, that short, get him in space, get the ball to him, and he will make something happen kind of player. And I think it's a great pickup by the Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles definitely had a lot of great pickups in this draft, and I think we're going to talk more about that. But someone that I saw is actually a really sneaky good pick here. I'm going to continue to stick here in the ACC and almost kind of being a homer here, but that's Peyton Wilson for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Peyton Wilson was the top linebacker in the nation last year. And this is a guy I'm talking about that does not have an ACL. Yes, you heard me right. He does not have an ACL. He has a Rite Aid list receipt of all of his injuries, similar to Michael Penix. It just keeps going on and on and on, which yes can be a bad thing. But this is a guy who was compared to Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly ran the linebacker position in the NFL for several years with the Carolina Panthers, and to be compared to someone like that and to get drafted in the third round, I think is a really great pick. He was obviously ranked higher, but because of the injuries, he fell down. But I think that's a pretty sneaky good pick because a lot of people were avoiding him because of those injuries. But if he could play to the potential that he has, he has the potential to be a possible All-Pro in the NFL if he could play like Luke Kuechly. So obviously his negatives are clearly that laundry list of injuries, but there are several people that have overcome injuries that have had great careers. Michael Penix is also another one that has that laundry list, but he was picked number 8. So I think that some of these teams do value talent more than these injuries. Michael Penix was the clear pick for that. So that's my kind of sneaky good pick. I don't know if you saw one at all, David, but if you did, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Cedric Van Prang Granger, center out of Georgia. He was the 141st pick in the 5th round for the Buffalo Bills. Elite blocker, Iron Man. Started 44 consecutive games at center for Georgia. So I think this is a great pickup for Buffalo. Probably won't start, but he will be a great depth piece for the Bills. And then another guy that I really like, although I'm not sure if this counts as a sneaky pick since he was a 2nd round pick, but I'm going to go with Mason Smith out of LSU. Mason Smith was, had a pretty inconsistent career at LSU. But at the end of the day, the way that I look at it, there's a reason why he was still a 2nd round pick. Clearly, the talent and clearly the potential is there, and if utilized correctly, he could end up being very solid.
Yeah. And really quick before we move forward, I want to correct something that I said earlier. I believe I said the Eagles drafted Terrion Arnold, but it was Quinyon Mitchell that I'm pretty sure they drafted from Toledo. So either way, both are stud cornerbacks. So if you got one of them, you're pretty well set there at that position. The Eagles didn't just get one of them; they got also another cornerback in Cooper DeJean, who is a stud. Amongst studs out there on the cornerback position. It's like Cortland Finnegan. I mean, is it going to be relevant again? I don't know, but Cooper DeJean representing. But it's the fact that they got both of them with their first 2 picks, and that was clearly what they wanted to do. Right there, enough almost kind of solidifies pretty much almost being a winner of this draft, and that's what I want to talk about: is who won the draft. Yes, I'm telling you the Eagles right now, but I'm going to go even more. I'm going to say the state of Pennsylvania. I do believe that both the Eagles and the Steelers won this draft, and this has nothing to do with me being a Steelers fan. According to PFF, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the last 2 drafts have had a grades of A+ on both of them. Well, the Eagles are right there as well. So that alone right there should tell you something, but both these teams went in this draft, and they came out significantly better in filling the holes that they pretty much said all along that they needed to fill. And that was for the Steelers' offensive line, clearly, and for the Eagles, their defense. And that's exactly what they did, like I said, with their first 2 picks. What about you guys? I mean, who do you think really won this draft that really solidified it?
I'm being biased here, but I'm going to go with the Bucks because not only did we get great players, but we also filled positions of need. Prime examples include Graham Barton. I said on the show before that Ryan Jensen recently retired, and we had a massive hole to fill at center. Well, now we've got that, and Graham Barton immediately makes our offensive line better. I also really like the pick we made when we got Tyke Smith, safety out of Georgia. Our secondary was really not good at all outside of Antoine Winfield Jr., obviously. So I really like the draft that Jason Light had because, as I said, not only was he able to get really good players for us, but he was able to fill positions of need. And I really believe that for the first time ever. Like, this is probably the first draft that we've had under like in which there was no head scratchers, no, well, we had a position of need but we couldn't fill it. No, like, this was probably the first draft ever under him in which every box was checked off.
Yeah, what about you, Ed?
And for me, I'm going to go two routes here, just and make it quick. One, the NFC North. The whole division just drafted solid and got better all the way across the board. Between the Bears, I said this before, it's like vinegar coming out of my mouth, but the Bears got better, but they are not going to be challenging the Lions or the Packers for that dominance yet, because they're the Lions and the Packers. They are above everybody else in that division, but the Bears, I wouldn't be surprised if they snuck up and got some people this upcoming year. And then you turn around and look at Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy is walking into just a gold mine of talent around him. So the whole thing has gotten better. And dare I say, AFC North, NFC North, two best divisions in football. I think there's going to be a case for it come December.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, well, David? I was going to say the AFC North was the only team last year to have like all, in which all the teams had winning records.
Winning records. Yeah. And the second winner is going to be Xavier Worthy. They had Tyreek Hill. He's faster.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes cannot overthrow him.
Yeah. It's a match made in heaven.
The absolute best case scenario of any player across the board in this draft. Period. Nathan, nada.
They were licking their chops on that one. They were like, oh my gosh, he's still available. This is perfect. I mean, yeah, that really was. But yes, the NFC North. I'll tell you what, guys, when I think of Detroit, I still remember the paper bags over their head, the 0-16, and even the Tigers. They can't even fill their stadium. But here, this draft was eccentric. It was live. It was crazy. I mean, they had a limit on how many people could be there. Well, guess what? People still snuck in and they went over that limit. Everyone wanted to be there. This was a draft that was filled to the brim. It was fun to watch. It really was. And the viewership is showing that it was fun to watch. This draft was a win, in my opinion. I think, I'll say if there were letdowns maybe on like the trades that were expected to happen in the first round, I was waiting for the first round to go crazy. It did not. I was like, wow, this didn't really live up to the expectations of the trades, but it did live up to the expectations of how many offensive players were drafted in the first round. It did set that record like we talked about. And it was like, all right, surely there's a defensive player about to be drafted here, right? Nope, another offensive player. Okay, and now this one for sure. This team needs a defensive player. Like the Raiders, nope, we're going to get Brock Bowers. It's like, oh my gosh, it's not going to stop.
Or who else needed a defensive player? The Falcons. I mean,
yeah,
y'all had Dallas Turner right there, great player. Feels
right in your lap. Yeah,
feels a clear position of need, and you F it up.
It was crazy because it was kind of unexpected, but at the same time predictable on some things. So it was a crazy draft as always, but it just seems like it always gets better. I really enjoyed it. So that's our draft coverage really quick right there.
And shout out to the city of Detroit.
Yeah,
it was shown in the absolute best light whatsoever because. Quite frankly, I know down here in Texas, we have a picture in our head of what Detroit looks like, and it's nothing like what they showed.
It's all Fords, right? The Fords driving around, M&M on every corner, Mom Spaghetti, yeah.
Hey, isn't the draft going to be in Green Bay next year?
Yep.
I know Pittsburgh put in a
looking forward to it
for the draft too. So,
you got any plans to fly up there, Ed?
Right.
Yeah, to be
I
determined.
would love to. As soon as the numbers hit on the lotto, I'm good.
Yeah. Same. But that was the NFL draft, but there was still a lot more to talk about though in the NFL. And first, we have to talk about pretty much the news that's being talked about the most, and that is Travis Kelce signing a 2-year extension. Does make him the highest paid tight end, which he rightfully deserves at $34.25 million on this extension. This is big for the Chiefs because we saw his brother retire. We kind of wonder, well, what's going to happen with Travis? He's not old by any means, but he's accomplished so much, but maybe he wants to accomplish more. This 2-year deal solidifies that the Chiefs are all in. They put all their poker chips in still. They said, we don't want to slow down. Why would we? We're a dynasty. So I think this is really big for the city of Kansas City and for Travis Kelce. He deserves to be the highest paid tight end.
Plus, he got the the great thing of seeing what the draft looked like before signing this contract. So he could see what the future had in mind.
Yeah, true. Of like what direction that they were heading in. But I mean, let's be honest, Kansas City, you'd be foolish to disrespect him.
Like you see your team sign Xavier Worthy, and you're like, all right, Andy, I'm in. Sign me up.
Yeah. I mean, I told Taylor we're gonna wait a little bit more, so let's go, baby. It was big. It was rightfully deserved. Travis Kelce has accomplished a lot, but he really deserves this type of contract because of all that he's done for this team. He's been with them since the beginning. He's very loyal to the city, to this team, and yeah, why not? Two more years on this contract, and let's see if we can win another Super Bowl or two. And you can never count them out, especially if they have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, this was a complete no-brainer. I mean, there's really nothing else to even talk about. As I said, no-brainer. You're in the midst of time. You're probably going 3-peat, probably. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what was happening there. And then, of course, Ezekiel Elliott back to the Dallas Cowboys on a 1-year deal. This was a really minimal contract, $2 to $3 million. Ezekiel Elliott really fell off the face of the earth, big time. Yeah, he's no longer being fed because no one really wants to feed him because he hasn't really been shown much. But is this kind of like we're bringing the band back together? But
let me just say something real quick before we let the Texas guy address it, okay? But this is the best way that I can sum it up. Well, you are the Texas guy, Ed. Embrace it. You could not live with your own failure. Where'd that bring you? Back to me.
Oh.
Well, you got to keep in mind, Ed, with being a Green Bay Packers fan, probably despises the Cowboys. He'll still sit here and say Dez did not catch it, but in his mind, he knows he did. But Ezekiel,
I will tell you, Dez caught the ball, but by the lay of the land and the rule at that time, that was not a catch.
Yeah.
No, Dez caught the ball, but my hatred of the Cowboys is telling me that it wasn't really a catch.
Yeah. He caught the ball. I just don't get why he needed to reach for it. I mean, they were right there on the goal line anyways.
I mean, it was 4th and 20. It was, 4th and 2?
Well, I mean,
he got a 21-yard pass and then flubbed it up.
Would you want to leave it in Tony Romo's hand for the game? We know how that kind of ends, so I kind of don't blame him for trying to reach. But yes, back to the Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott. Gosh, he went to the Patriots last year, and I don't even think I saw him touch the ball. It's like he's kind of forgotten, but Dallas is trying to have this mojo back. Let's bring him back. Maybe him and Dak Prescott could have that year they had earlier in their careers. But it's kind of desperation because you look at this running back room, like you really look at this running back room. The who's of the who's that you will never know, and that is Rico Dowdle, fifth year from South Carolina, Deuce Vaughn in his second year from Kansas State. You even have Royce Freeman from Oregon Ducks there. I mean, they just brought him over from the Rams. Hunter Luepke in his second year as well. you're probably wondering who the heck are these guys, and I'm wondering is the same. So they were kind of desperate at the running back position, and how are they going to make it better? We're going to bring Ezekiel Elliott back. It's kind of comical, honestly. But yeah, Dallas Cowboys seem really lost. I mean, a lot of people have them being one of the biggest losers of the draft and free agency. I mean, this was really big, especially they're losing Michael Gallup at the wide receiver position. They lost who's a running back, Tony Pollard to as well in free agency. So it's like they didn't really improve at all. And now all this drama with Dak Prescott, it's like Dallas is not really making the right decisions, but they kind of haven't for some time. But this was kind of the nail in the coffin, in my opinion.
Well, let me just say one more comment about Ezekiel Elliott, like in a more serious tone. I think I said something before that with the Cowboys, it really feels like it's more so the offensive line than the running backs themselves. I mean, like we saw what Ezekiel Elliott did his rookie year. He led the league in rushing. And I actually predicted that was going to happen, not on the show because the show didn't exist at the time, but I predicted that he was going to lead the league in rushing because of the Cowboys' offensive line, and that's exactly what happened. Now, is Ezekiel Elliott going to reach those numbers again? More than likely not, but it does seem like because he's going to a system that seems more, suited for his needs, if that makes any sense. I do feel like he will be at least solid, for lack of a better term, for Dallas because of that offensive line.
I certainly don't think that Ezekiel Elliott, if you're looking at over under for numbers, I feel like the number of yards rushing will be the under, and the number on the weight scale will be the over.
Over, yeah.
Or maybe the cutoff of his jersey, just so he can show off his gut, is going to be the under.
Yeah.
And the weight will be the over.
He tried so hard to make that rule in college football when he was at Ohio State, tucking it into his pads. It was like, it was kind of obnoxious, but he doesn't bring that fear to the that they really need. They need that fear in the backfield to help counter with the offense attack or the passing attack, and this clearly is not doing that whatsoever. So that's, once again, it's kind of a head scratcher move.
And one last thing, Jerry Jones said that this was going to be an all-in type of offseason. They have done absolutely nothing in free agency. They didn't do anything good in draft, and they have not re-signed any of their assets that they expect to keep long-term. Where's the all-in?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, it's all in for the people in this building. I'm like, that's not what that means, Jerry. Are you looking for some glory hole? Is that's
in the words of the legendary Skip Bayless, all in, comma, my ass.
Yeah, exactly. It's you can't fool us. I mean, you may be able to fool your delusional fans, but you can't fool us because we're not Cowboy fans. So, but there were some big shakeups that actually happened too, and this is something that I really want to talk about because I'm a little curious as to why it happened. But CBS has now moved on with Boomer Esiason and Phil Simms. They've brought in Matty Ice, no, not me, the other one, the less good-looking one, to be there in their morning broadcast show. I'm just thinking, did they finally come to their grips of, well, we're tired of everyone asking who is Phil Simms and which one's Boomer Esiason and which one's Phil Simms, because they look alike, but now they're both out. How can we fix this situation? Well, they're both out. So this was kind of big because I'm so used to waking up, going on and watching, CBS, watching Bill Cowher. Being a Steelers fan, I love Bill Cowher there. But having Boomer Esiason, even though he's a Bengal, and Phil Simms there, it's like. I always enjoyed having them. I really thought they brought great insight to the show, but now they're out and Matt Ryan is in. So how do you guys feel about this shakeup kind of happening?
I'm not sure how many people actually watch the CBS morning pregame show. When you've got the NFL Network pregame show, you've got the Fox pregame show, you've got the ESPN pregame show. I think for most of America, CBS is kind of fourth on that list, but maybe I'm wrong on that. As far as Boomer Esiason and Phil Simms, they are just about as dynamic as cottage cheese. They really do not bring a whole lot of energy. Nate Burleson being on that crew is amazing.
Yeah.
He is outstanding. But then you throw it over to Bill Cowher, who's got the more mind for the coaching aspect of it, and then two aged old quarterbacks on either end that people just don't relate to anymore. So they needed to update who that aging old quarterback would be on the panel, and it's going to be Matty Ice instead of Boomer and Phil.
Yeah, they brought in the youth, obviously, with Nate Burleson, and it really, I thought, made a big change in a good way. But they were like, well, that's only one guy. We got to fix this. But it's funny to me because they bring in Matt Ryan, who I couldn't tell you right now, but to me, he seems older than Nate Burleson, but here he is just retiring last week. So be interested to see actually the age difference there. But Nate Burleson is very youthful, and so having him and Matt Ryan now is going to kind of barely change things up there. But that wasn't the only thing that was changed. Jason Kelce, who is probably the number one personality that you will see out there, honestly, being added to the ESPN countdown. And gosh, ESPN got themselves a good one there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a phenomenal fit for Jason Kelce, because that man was meant for TV. And what's my proof? Look up his Super Bowl speech. Enough said.
Yeah, and him at
Absolutely.
WrestleMania.
Well, and anything to not look at the screen and go, "Hey, booger."
Yeah, please no. You remember when he sat in that crane chair?
Yes.
I'm sure you guys will know what I mean, but the biggest thing that I find so annoying about Booger McFarland is that he just says the most obvious things, man. It's like everything he says, you're like, you think?
Look, David, you have a blue hat on. That means that your hat is blue.
Seriously, yeah.
I feel so filled up with wisdom.
I do have a question though. Has JJ Watt been added to any morning program yet? Because what I've seen of him doing it, he's fantastic, and I would love to see that defensive point of view. Maybe that is the other person that CBS is trying to get, because they lost 2, added 1. That leaves a chair open.
What happened with the Tom Brady thing? Wasn't that with Fox? Does that
I think
start
it was
2025, or did they end up not doing that? I can't remember.
Or is he going to be in the booth?
Man, well, he's going to be in the booth, but it's through Fox, I believe.
Man, I feel like there's always something going on with Brady. It's like, hey, Brady's going to go into commentating, or Brady's going to go play for the Raiders, and he's going to be part-time owner. What the hell is he going to do at this
He's going to do it all. He's going to be all of it. All right, let's just be real. Don't doubt Tom Brady, because he'll do it all.
Truly such a versatile player.
But with J.J. Watt, I almost said J.J. McCarthy, but with J.J. Watt, I'm sure everyone's lining up to sign him. I know that he's been a pretty regular contributor on Pat McAfee's show, which is through ESPN, so don't be surprised there. And gosh, if they got J.J. Watt and Jason Kelce together, that'd be great. I mean, Pat McAfee and Jason Kelce already would. I don't think anything would probably top that. So it's Jason Kelce just brings that. He brings that mood that every football fan just needs. You need it.
What are the odds that at least on Jason Kelce's first day on the job, he wears his famous Sultan outfit?
I would probably say pretty good odds there. That or him going through a table, and honestly, he even though he never played for them, he was meant for Bills Mafia. He really was. And the fact that
Oh yeah.
he went out there, he tried to go through a table, but they wouldn't let him. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, he was already going to be retiring. He was there to pull for his brother. It's like, let him go through the table. Come on, let him have some fun. So he was meant for that, and I'm so glad to see just the success he's had in that. Everyone wants him. I mean, he was at freaking WrestleMania, for crying out loud. If you can make it in WrestleMania, you've made it in life. So good for him. He's going to be a great addition to ESPN. But I want to move along here to the NBA playoffs. Minnesota Timberwolves, they have swept the Phoenix Suns. And, this was a Suns team that ended the season, on a high note because they moved themselves out of that play-in tournament to be already in the playoffs, but they went against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And guys, I talked about them several episodes ago. This Minnesota Timberwolves team is really, really good. Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, especially when he's healthy, and Rudy Gobert there. It's pretty damn scary. It really is. And the Suns, they found out the hard way. They got swept. They didn't even win a single game. And this is a team that had Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, PJ Tucker, and they couldn't do a single thing. And it's kind of fun, actually, to watch. It really was. I know Kevin Durant's pretty much the villain in NBA, but just to see that team try to be a mega team and lose was pretty fun.
I think the Wolves had the best defense in the NBA, like both in terms of points allowed per game and defensive rating. They were the best defensive team all season, which is not surprising when you have a guy like Rudy Gobert. You better be atop the league in defense.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw a headline the other day about Rudy Gobert, pretty much them asking him like, why do you think you're hated so much? It's like everyone hates him, but this guy is every year in the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year, if not the winner. So he brings a lot of great momentum to the defensive side for the team. He always did in Salt Lake, and here he is continuing to do it in Minnesota.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, Ed, I understand. Did you have any words to say about how this affects Kevin Durant's legacy in any way?
Well, at some point, Kevin Durant, yes, former Longhorn, hook 'em. I always got to squeeze that one in there.
Yeah.
At some point, Kevin Durant has to win without being the third wheel of a super team. And he's tried and failed already twice at creating these monstrous, collection of talent. One in Brooklyn, which was a complete dumpster fire. Mm-hmm. And then now here in the Valley of the Sun, and they're out in the first round. How can we really define Kevin Durant as one of the greatest players of all time, which people want to try and put him in that category, but he hasn't done anything without other people on his team doing it for him.
Well, and I want to add to that, Ed, because let's just get the obvious out of the way. All right. Kevin Durant is a Hall of Fame player. He's got 2 finals wins. He's got an MVP. He's one of the best scorers of all time. One of the best players ever in general. Okay. He's a lock, but we got to face the facts here. His legacy is permanently dented by the crap he pulled off when he moved from Oklahoma City to Golden State. I mean, we all remember what happened. I mean, like you have your team up 3-1 against a team that won 73 games. Now, ultimately, yes, you did choke, but still, you had a 3-1 series lead against that juggernaut of a team. Okay, like that in and of itself is impressive. And what do? Do you stay and build? Help build the team to make it better? Do you have do you realize, hey, like we actually had a shot. We almost had those guys. We just got to keep working through this. No, you took the coward's way out. You were so desperate for a championship that you just ran away from the team you were drafted by and you went to the team that beat you. Okay. That is just absolute cowardice right there. And it's like, from a playing perspective, just from a pure playing athletics perspective, KD is one of the greats. But as far as legacies go, he's simply not in the realm as guys like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, or hell, even LeBron James. And say whatever you want about LeBron. I know LeBron has a tendency to switch teams a lot, but the difference, though, is that LeBron did not, like, every team that LeBron went to, they were either, I don't want to say bad, but like they weren't great. Like every team became better primarily because of LeBron. Not only because of LeBron, but primarily, because of LeBron. That's not the same with Kevin Durant.
And one thing that I definitely see out of Kevin Durant amongst those other guys that you had talked about. You talked about Kobe, you talked about Jordan, you talked about even LeBron. Those three guys are willing to get in your grill at a moment's notice to say, "Hey, this needs to happen. What are you doing?" And be that leader, even though it is a jerk style of doing it. Kevin Durant has never been the jerk to bring his teammates along with him to match his ability. If you go and talk to any NBA player and ask who do you not want to play one-on-one with, it's Kevin Durant, because he is that talented. He would take everyone to the hole all the time, every day, every chance. But when you're talking about bringing a team along with you, you have to have those leaders, and not always the nice guy leader. It's not always oh, yeah, we're going to play good, guys. That's already, Michael Jordan, almost choked people on the court.
Yeah.
You had Kobe that was basically a mirror image of Michael Jordan. You had
Didn't Michael Jordan actually choke, or maybe he punched Tony Kukoc?
He punched him.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
not
punched
a nice guy.
No, he was, and he'll tell you he was the biggest jerk on the planet. But when you're talking about Kevin Durant, he wants to have all the accolades of being one of the best players ever, but you have to get over yourself to do it and be that vocal leader and get in people's faces to do their job at your level. Create the standard and make sure everybody gets to your standard. And those other players that you had talked about, they did that and they do that. Kevin Durant doesn't do that. Exactly. He is out there doing his thing, and everybody else is just supposed to somehow make it work.
And then Matthew, I kind of want to go back to you with this thought, but with Kevin Durant and the Suns, being eliminated. I mean, let's face it, the Suns had their chance and they blew it. They had their chance with KD. They had their chance when they literally made it to the finals a few years ago. They had their chance when they had the best record in the NBA 2, maybe 3 years ago, and they blew it. And you know what really sucks, Matthew? They literally have no future. They don't have a first round draft pick from 2025 to 2030. They wasted everything for nothing.
Yeah, I think they really have lost it. I think their best chance, honestly, was the year that they went to the finals. The reason why is because you now have, and they aren't the only team, you now have teams that have multiple people that want to be the star. And that's exactly what they've ran into with having 3 type of stars on their team, with Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and now Kevin Durant, where they all want to be the star, or they were the star at one point. And this isn't like a big 3. This is 3 people that want to be the star. And honestly, the Dallas Mavericks are running into it right now with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, and it's not a good trend to be in. So where the Suns made it to the finals back a couple years ago, where they lost to the Bucks, they did everything right. You had Devin Booker was your star. There was no doubt about that. You had DeAndre Ayton there, who is a good player as well. But you had pieces that it meshed perfect together, similar to what's happening in Minnesota, the very team that beat them, or should I even say the Denver Nuggets, who we're going to talk about next. When you have one star in your team, doesn't mean that you don't have other great players, because Denver does. We know who their star is, but we know who their second best player is as well. But we also know who their third best player is, and so forth, because they're consistent. But when you're too busy trying to battle for who's the star of this team, you are going to lose your games. And that's exactly what happened to the Suns, and their future is tainted. It's going to be a while for them to get back to where they need to be. And who knows when we're going to see it next. I mean, shoot, the whole state of Arizona right now, I mean, they lost a hockey team. Their basketball team is going, they're going down in shambles right now. Yes, it's hot there, but it's getting a little bit more hot there.
And I think you bring up a great point there, Matthew. You have a bunch of players trying to be the star, but nobody wants to be the leader. And with these dynasties that are out there, the roles are defined by the players on who is in charge. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily, I wouldn't say in charge, but who everybody looks to create the energy, to create the direction of what the team does.
Yeah, and it's like if you ever watch the Academy Awards, you have the award for Best Supporting Actor. Well, now you have an NBA Best Supporting Team, Best Supporting Player, and there is a definition when it comes to that, your supporting cast, and that is the Denver Nuggets. I mean, to a T. Yes, we know Jokic, the Joker, is their star of their team. Dare I say their leader, but their supporting cast is even better. Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon's doing here and there, Michael Porter Jr. I mean, they have the best supporting cast in the league right now, and they clearly showed it against the Lakers team. Lakers got lucky; they even got one win against this Nuggets team. But this Nuggets team, who are the defending champions, by the way, are looking to be the back-to-back champs, and I don't see why they can't be the back-to-back champs. Jokic last night against the Lakers, where they did win, they finally won the series, put up a 25-29 stat line. Typical day at the office, in my opinion, with Jokic. Jamal Murray, 32.7 assists with the game winner, his second one in this series, not at the buzzer, but with 3.6 seconds left. This is a team that through and through is just loaded. They may not be filled with all-stars, but they are filled with that supporting cast, that they are a team. They really are, because when you hear the star of Jokic, you think at the end of the game that guy has the ball. No, they've showed you Jamal Murray can have the ball, and he's produced very well, I might add, of winning these games. So, I mean, you guys feel the same with me here, that this right here is the best supporting cast in the NBA, and there's a reason why that they're probably expected to go again to the finals.
I definitely do agree with you that Denver does have the best supporting cast, but I do have to push back against you a little bit about the Lakers being lucky to win one game. On the contrary, my friend, I know the series went 5 games, but the Lakers actually led for the majority of the minutes. I don't have the exact number, but ballpark, I would say they led like 85 to 90% of the time. I mean, the Lakers were right there, but at the end of the day, they just could not overcome Jokic and Denver's depth. And I actually talked about this with you, Ed, on here just the other day. But I think losing in the manner that in which the Lakers lost is a lot worse than just being blown out, because you get blown out, that's one thing. You clearly were not in it from the beginning. But the manner in which the Lakers lost, just knowing you were so close to beating them, just has to be so painful and just so gut-wrenching.
Now, the Lakers were ahead. I heard the stat earlier today, 70% of the time of this series, and they led at halftime of every game. They just let it all go because they started playing two-man basketball again, because you had two of the best players on the court between LeBron and AD. Well, guess what? There's an entire team on the other side. And team basketball is back, people. It's not just about the one guy anymore. You know, after we got past the Michael Jordan era, we went into the Tracy McGrady. We went into the Allen Iverson. We went into this one person that was going to carry an entire franchise all the way to the finals. And be the face of the NBA all the time and all this other stuff. And the idea of team basketball was getting lost in it, which is why I certainly narrowed how much of basketball I'm watching, because I didn't want to see just the same guy, slicing the lane and going in for a dunk or chucking it up from half court. I didn't want to see that. I wanted to see a true team game, because this is a team game and it needs to be played as a team game. And that's something that we're seeing with the Timberwolves. We're seeing with the Nuggets, and we're seeing, with the Celtics. They are doing well as a team. And that's why at this point you've got the Nuggets and the Celtics being favored to be in the finals this year.
I want to give a really quick shout out actually to Michael Porter Jr. I mean, this is a guy who is, there's a lot going on in the media with both of his brothers, and the fact that he is keeping his composure and is doing his thing in the playoffs is great. As an athlete, you have to be able to cancel out the noise. Whether it be physical with the crowd or, mentally with the media. And he's doing a great job at doing that. He put up some great numbers again last night. So a really good shout out to him. But I want to talk about LeBron. Of course, we have to talk about LeBron, who, he put up 39 and 11 last night. He's going to give it his all. But this was a big game because the future of LeBron and the Lakers. This is going to be talked about for a while now. Shoot, it's probably going to be talked about more than some of these playoff basketball games. But he was unwilling to address any of these retirement type of questions. And he has had a phenomenal career. There is no denying that. He is the number one scorer of all time in NBA basketball. This guy has just a legacy. And we were, we benefited being able to watch him play. There's no doubt about that. But do you really think he's going to hang it up? I don't think so. I don't really think there's a single person that thinks he's going to. I think the goal has and always will be playing with his son. I really do believe that. How likely is it to happen? Couldn't tell you how the odds are going to be, but that is going to be a big thing, a big storyline of if he'll be able to play with his son. His son has entered the NBA draft. He's also kept his eligibility for college basketball should he not get drafted. But, how do you guys think this is going to go with LeBron? Is he going to stay with the Lakers? Is he going to see where his son gets drafted and try to go there?
Or maybe the Lakers draft Bronny?
They've got a couple of chances to.
Yeah. He's not going to be he's not going to be an early pick. He did not do enough in USC.
No disrespect to Bronny, but he probably could benefit from staying in school for at least another year, because if you look at his numbers, yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, it's true. But at the end of the day, he is LeBron James' son. So could he show up in the NBA world and just totally dominate? Would not be surprised.
Okay, I know this is getting a little off track, but since we're talking about Bronny, I just have to share this. But I saw something really, really funny on Twitter where and I don't know if this was made up or not. I hope it's real, because it just makes it that much better. But apparently, Bronny wanted to wear a number that his dad never wore, or I don't remember what it was, but whatever it was, his reasoning was, I don't want people to know who I am. I don't want people to recognize me. And then someone said, and then now here comes LeBron James Jr. Hey, bruh, who is that? Just a little cute little story that I wanted to share.
Yeah. Well, and anybody that thinks that LeBron James is going to take a look at how he played this year and think that he's ready to hang him up is just not paying attention. He is well above his stat line, percentage wise, assist, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, all above his career average this year. He is playing at a very high level at this point. So to think that he would turn around and walk away at this point, I don't think is even feasible. But would it be in LA? I think so. there are other places that he could go, but LA is Starsville. It is the franchise. It is cameras on me. Everything and anything that you could ever possibly imagine is right at your fingertips because you're in LA. That's why he would probably stay in LA, because the Lakers are always about the ticket sales, always about promotion, always about the franchise being the entertainment, not just the players. And LeBron makes the franchise the entertainment across the board. One of the places that I had heard of him possibly going is maybe Philly to go with Embiid. That would be a strange, weird thing to have happen. And that's just a rumor that's out there or an idea that's out there. I'm not reporting anything whatsoever. But I notice that it has to be a big market. LeBron James is no longer a Cleveland type market guy. He is a big market guy, and he's going to stay in a big market no matter if he stays in LA or if he moves someplace else.
Well, the funny thing too, Ed, about the Lakers always being about entertainment is that even during the years when they're losing and they suck, that's still entertaining because people find it entertaining when a team with that kind of pedigree, that kind of history is sucking. So it's always entertainment with those guys, no matter what.
Showbiz. That's very much what it is. It's showbiz. But yeah, LeBron. It'll definitely be a big market type of team, and it'll be LeBron in the battle with Father Time. But speaking of battles, we had the Battle of Florida go down, and unfortunately for David's sake, in last night with the Florida Panthers finishing out the series against the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-1. This was big. I mean, this was the first time Florida beat Tampa Bay in a series. This was a Tampa Bay that I felt like really ended the season on such a high note. I know they were the wild card team, but it's Tampa Bay that we're talking about here. The Lightning have been synonymous with Stanley Cup playoffs for several years now, and you're now seeing the up and coming with Florida Panthers really kind of take over with the state of Florida. Although the score being 6-1 does not reflect how the game really was. I mean, there's 2 empty net goals the last 4 minutes. This was a close game. There were several goals that were taken away for the Lightning that really changed a lot of the game, especially after one of the goals that was taken away. Panthers scored immediately right after that. So, I mean, there was a lot of momentum shifted all within, a matter of 2 minutes, essentially. So it was pretty big for the Lightning there. But ultimately, the Panthers did win this one, and they looked really impressive. And I want to turn this over to David to kind of talk a little bit more about the game. But, we are now bidding farewell to Tampa Bay as they exit the playoffs. But we will possibly bid farewell to one more person. David?
Yeah, well, when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning, I mean, like pretty much all things in life, all good things come to an end. Nothing lasts forever, and certainly we're pretty much seeing that with the Lightning right now. I think we've pretty much seen the end of the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm not trying to suggest that we're going to start sucking. Like we still have Kucherov, we still have plenty of great talent on our roster. So I think we'll still have some decent seasons. But when I say the end of the Lightning, what I mean is like we're not going to see the Lightning make any more deep runs. At least not for a while. Both to it's due to a few things. Fatigue for one thing. Age. The team is aging, and other teams have just simply gotten better. The Lightning took over at a great time, and other teams have gotten better. Case in point, the Florida Panthers. Clearly, as you said, Matthew, the first time that the Panthers beat us in a series, and it sucks, but kudos to them. They were the better team all season. And when I'm looking at the Lightning, I think at the end of the day, we kind of have to consider ourselves lucky that we even made the playoffs in the first place with all the turmoil that we were facing. And truly, if it wasn't for Nikita Kucherov, there's no way, no chance in hell we would have even sniffed the postseason. But talking about Steven Stamkos, is he going to leave? Unfortunately, I would say the chances are probably pretty good. I want him to come back. Obviously, Stamkos himself wants to come back. John Cooper, Julian Breezeball. We all want Stamkos to come back, okay? But here's the difference, right? This is the exact same situation we faced back in, I think it was 2016, if I remember correctly. Well, back then, Steven Stamkos still had a lot to prove, okay? He was still cupless, and back then, he was widely considered to be a playoff choker. So Stamkos had a lot to prove. Well, now he doesn't really have a lot to prove with us. And yes, Stamkos is still performing at a high level, but you know what else is high right now? His age. Steven Stamkos is 34 years old. He is getting up there in age. And it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, if you're Julian Breezeball, do you still want to pay Stamkos what he deserves, right? To show that kind of respect to Stamkos for everything he's done, not just for the team, but also for the city of Tampa in general. Or, and that's other thing too, the Lightning are at a point where they have to start thinking about the future. And if Stamkos does leave, it will purely be because of a business, it will purely be a business move. Now, if you're Stamkos, you're thinking, okay, do I want to stay and show loyalty to the team that drafted me, the team where I won 2 cups? I built my life here. Well, I shouldn't say build my life, but I built a family here and all that. Or do I want to go somewhere else where I will be paid more and I can be a great contributor on a Stanley Cup winning team? And honestly, I'm not. You can't blame Stamkos for either scenario. You can't blame him if he wants to, choose to stay loyal to the team that drafted him, or if he wants to go somewhere where he feel like he will be paid his worth. Whatever decision Stamkos makes, I'm not going to blame him. I think the vast majority of Lightning fans will not blame him, one bit. And so, Stamkos, to this, if you ever watch the show, which I don't know if you do, but if you ever watch the show, I just want to say this: if that was truly your last time in a Bolt sweater, Stammer, then I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, and from the bottom of all of our hearts, all of Lightning fans' hearts, thank you so much for everything you've done, not just for the team, but for the city of Tampa. I mean, you are bar none the greatest player in franchise history. As I said, you truly have nothing left to prove. And in the words of Stammer himself, I don't give a shit what people say about hockey in Florida, but this is the best hockey town.
Yes, sir. If you're a Lightning fan, if you're a hockey fan, you've been treated by being able to watch Stamkos play. Hockey fans were treated last night, or actually this series, to watch the goalie matchup between Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky. I mean, gosh, it's like it doesn't get better than that. Under the net, it was just really fun to watch. And Panthers, they do have a great team there, but Lightning, this could be the end of an era right now where they will need to rebuild more before they could even get back into a deep run. But teams that are really at the now right now, that's the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights. Dallas tied it up last night, guys. It's 2 road wins apiece for both teams, so here we are, 2-2. Dallas finally got a win in regulation against Vegas. It seems like they really struggle at doing that. Yes, they won the other night, but that was in overtime. This is the Dallas Stars team that we expected to see. Vegas came out to a quick 2-0 start, and it looked like they were really going to run away with this. And here comes Dallas shrieking back with 2 consecutive road wins to tie the series as it goes back to their home ice. I mean, this is going to be a very big game to watch here. But this series is really fun to watch because these are two teams that really want to show that they aren't just a regular season team, that they can make a run here in the playoffs. So 2-2, guys. Do you guys still feel like Dallas is going to win this series and continue to move on in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I think they will, because there's a bit of that middle block that Dallas has had for the Vegas Golden Knights over the years, and being able to take 2 from them on the road kind of puts them back in a better mindset of, hey, we can beat these guys. We can do what we need to do. And it's going to take the physicality that they brought into these games in Vegas to do it. They can't go back to regular season of let's just kind of passively get by everything. No, this has been a all out slugfest, back and forth. Just as a quick stat, for the year, the NHL averages about 46 hits a game that's registered. In the first period last night, there were 32.
Yes.
It has been a physical series. It has been a fun series. It has been everything that you want between two teams that they don't like each other. And I wouldn't say that it's a rivalry, but it is definitely some bad blood between the two.
Well, I'll tell you what. I feel confident about Dallas's chances of moving on because the numbers back them up. I mean, through 4 games, if you look at the numbers, the Stars have been the better team, like especially the underlying numbers. They're possessing the puck better. Their expected goals for numbers are better. And most of the times, if the advanced stats are on your side, well, you're going to have a pretty good time.
Yeah, they've dominated, but they definitely dominated game 3, but they could not get on the board. So that's why they wound up in overtime when it could have been 7 goals against.
Yeah, gosh, this reminds me of just the Pens and the Caps. Honestly, when it comes to a physicality standpoint, teams that they aren't really known as rivals because the Flyers are the Pens' rivals essentially, but the Caps and Pens, they did not like each other. So it's just, I love when you have that physicality. But 32 hits just in the first alone is it just shows you that's what this series is all about. So pay attention to this series. This will probably be one of the best series that you will see probably this entire Stanley Cup playoff. So it is a great matchup. Vegas being a very well-seasoned, well-veteran team in the Stanley Cup playoffs is something to keep an eye on, but this Dallas Stars team is very talented from top to bottom. So keep an eye out on that. Keep an eye out on the rest of the series. As of now, officially, the Carolina Hurricanes have advanced as they finished out the Islanders, so they are officially eliminated. So
I would say the Hurricanes already won the game when Kuznetsov had that utterly disrespectful penalty shot goal.
Yeah, like the Captain Phillips, like, I'm your captain now. He pretty much told him, I'm your dad now. All right. I mean, I own you. I mean,
Yeah.
that was very disrespectful. But Kuznetsov, gosh, talk about the Capital. I mean, yeah, the Capitals there. He probably made the best decision to jump ship. I mean, they kind of let go of him, and now here he is in Carolina. So Carolina is going to be another fun team to watch. Gosh, the rest of this playoffs is going to be fun. I mean, at some point, Carolina and New York are going to have to face off, and gosh, and then you have Florida, the Panthers. Gosh, it's going to be fun. So I can't wait for the rest of these Stanley Cup playoffs. I hope you guys are looking forward to that as well. Drop in the comments who you think, prediction-wise, who you really think is going to end up in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And also let us know in the comments of how you felt about NFL draft, who you thought won the draft and really improved the most, whether it be your favorite team or not. I know me and David were a little biased there, and I'm sure Ed wanted to be biased too with his Packers. I mean, we're only human. It's normal to do that. But let us know what you guys feel about that, and also hit the like and subscribe button and share these videos. We really appreciate it, guys. But till next time, we are rounding third, and we are headed for home.